Joining me today is Kay Miller. Kay is a veteran and served during what's called the Cold War after World War II here in Canada in the RCAF. Kay, welcome. Good to have you here with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, Kay, you were telling me that you were quite a number of years in the RCAF.
Yeah.
And that you, your primary responsibility was fire control operations. What was that all about?
Well, it was, I was working in a radar tower, and you were watching, as the planes come in and where they were going, and what they used to call us was scope dopes.
Oh.
And I resented that, but anyway, that was our nickname, scope dopes.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it, and I served from coast to coast and 4 years over in France.
Now, what would you do as a scope dope? Sorry, I don't mean to insult you, but what would you do as a scope dope?
Well, you had to track the aircraft that were coming in, and it was all started when NORAD came into effect.
Right.
Because they were afraid of the Russians coming in and bombing us.
That's right.
And we were supposed to be the guard to prevent the Russians getting into Canada. Thank God they never made the trip.
Right. Right.
But anyway, that was mainly our responsibility.
And once you saw an aircraft on the radar,
Yeah.
what would you do then?
Well,
That shouldn't be there. I mean,
No.
obviously there were aircraft that would be there. That you
Okay,
would-
yeah, well, we even tracked our own, any aircraft that was in the air, we picked it up on the radar. And once you were in front of the scope, but you went from the scope to the tote board, and you wore it like a telephone operator's headpiece.
Right.
And you conversed, with everybody that was on the tree, and it was very interesting. You were only in that scope room for a certain length of time, and then they rotate you to somewhere else. And it was 3 or 4 different positions. It was all in one area.
In the one building, so to
In the
speak.
one building, yes.
Yeah.
And it was a big radar building, with the round top on it.
Golf ball.
Golf ball, yeah,
Massive golf ball.
that's right, yeah. But
Yeah.
it was really an enjoyable trade.
Yeah. And how many years did you serve in total?
I was about 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do you recall any specific incidents that where there might have been an aircraft in trouble that you ever saw?
Fortunately for me, no. Somebody else that might have had it, but not me.
So you were just watching all the aircraft flying back and forth across the country. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
As I recall, there were quite a lot of radar sites across the country, and
Yes.
often in very remote locations.
Yes.
Were you in any of those remote locations?
No, I was fortunate because a lot of my friends were in really remote areas. But I was lucky that, I didn't get posted to any of them. So,
But you also got posted to Europe, did
yes,
you not?
yes, to France.
And where in France were you?
In Metz.
Okay, right in France itself.
Yes,
Right.
right in the heart. That's where the Air Force headquarters was.
Right.
And that's where I was sent to.
And you still were doing the same thing as a
Yep.
scope dope.
Yep.
Just keeping an eye on it. But in Europe, you'd have to watch not just the
Oh,
traffic.
it was a different setup completely.
Different orientation
Yes.
because the Iron Curtain was there, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you had to watch for aircraft coming towards the west.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you ever see any aircraft that shouldn't have been there?
On my shifts, no.
That's it.
No.
Very lucky.
Very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the best memory you have of your time in the service?
Well, I really enjoyed France because the French over there are some, they're more like Owen Sound people.
Okay.
They would give you the shirt off your back.
Yeah.
And the language is completely different than the French spoken here.
Of course it is.
Now, I mean, all I've got is my high school French.
Yeah.
And I can't converse with the French Canadian because
Right.
to me, that's just slang.
There's about 400 years difference in the
Honestly,
language. I know
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
yes, but you had no problems.
And no problems at all in France.
great.
I mean, and the thing over there, the school system was different. They don't go to school like they do here 5 days a week.
Right.
They went from Monday to Thursday, and then Friday was their day off.
Okay.
And the reason for that was during the war, they needed the kids to go out and help the farmers.
Right.
And that's why they gave them Friday, and it still continues to today.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Now, did you live on base or off
No,
base?
I lived off the base.
So you had your own little apartment or something off the base?
Yeah.
And that must have been different too, because instead of a military life, you had a little bit of a civilian taste to it too.
Exactly. It was sort of a mixture.
Right.
You know, you put your uniform on and go to work, and then you come home and take the uniform off, and you were part of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you leave the service?
I left the service in 1959.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in those days, it was very much a radar-controlled everything.
Everything.
Everything,
Yeah. Today,
from fighters
everything is
to-
obsolete, but then
Yeah.
that was the in thing today.
And computers didn't exist.
Oh no, no.
It was a very manual process, wasn't it?
It really was. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many other women were working with you?
Oh, there was 99% of the women were all fighter control operators.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because the men, they got the more technical
Mm-hmm.
aspects, you know, the mechanics and the aircrafts and all that.
Right.
Whereas the women, you were either a secretary or a fighter cop.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
So.
Right.
But anyway, I really enjoyed it.
Good. Well, Kay, thank you so much for telling us your story. Thank you for your service. And I'm sure that this Remembrance Day will be, as usual, very memorable for you.
Oh, yeah, certainly. And I'll certainly be there for the big parade.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Mary Fish, I think it's Fish. She was Soldiers Memorial. Her name is on the list. It's on the west side. I believe there's another one from the Washington area who was nursing since World War I.
Well, there's a lady that came from Hanover, and she married, what was the fellow that started the cement business?
Oh, okay. Yes.
The son, yeah.
Okay.
She got a lot of medals. She was refused. They were often refused by the Canadians, and they went and joined the American Army.
Yes.
And then
Yeah, there's
she was the most decorated woman in World War I.
because the reason I say that is that I'm having this conversation with Grey Roots, the memorial up there, Grey Roots, which refers to men only.
Well, you know, that's not been looked into, I don't think. You know, somebody that might know too is the lady, she works at a second-hand store up at, the Mission. And she wrote the book about the nursing book. Wilma.
My guest today is Davy Gardner. Now, Davy is a very special veteran for a number of reasons. First of all, she is of an exceptional age, and I can say this, she's 95. But the other important factor, and I think is of great interest, is she is a Camp X veteran. If you don't know your Canadian history, go look up Camp X, because it's a very significant part, an important part of our World War II history. Camp X was a top secret, hush-hush. Well, let's just say that Ian Fleming of James Bond was there. Davy, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, Camp X was a very important place in Canada in World War II. Where
Yes.
was Camp X?
Between Whitby and Oshawa, on the border,
And right on the lake.
and right on the lake.
Yeah. If you're driving along the 401, going east or west, it's, I'm going to say, somewhere around, just like I say, between Ajax and Whitby in there, but you can't see it now.
It's on the
It's on the left side.
east side of Whitby.
On the east side of Whitby. Yeah.
But almost to Oshawa.
And it's all warehouses now.
Yeah, it's right next door to the liquor control.
Which is
Warehouse.
very
The liquor
appropriate.
control warehouse is right next to
Right
the park.
next, and there is a park there now.
Yeah, that's a park.
There is a park there now, that's right. Yeah. But when you were there, it was fields.
It was fields and there was no 401.
Right. Right.
So when you went in on number 2 highway, You didn't know where you were going.
Right, right. It was that secret.
Yes, it was.
Now, what did you do at Camp X?
I was in communications, transcribed Morse code, not orally, sight, with an intake recording. And what happened, they would transfer maybe 500 groups in the time it would, in a short time, because it was done by machine. You could type out the tape to send, and then when you received it, you received it on an ink tape recording. So you just transcribed it from the ink tape recording to.
And where did it go after you received it?
They didn't tell us, but I found out it went to U.S. and Ottawa.
And that, yes, the British Secret Service, the British government had a special office in New York.
Yes.
And
They ran us.
and they ran. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
British
And then
security coordination.
that's exactly what it was. And then they went to. And then the information also went to Ottawa.
Yeah.
But it was all coded. You never.
It was-
You could not understand a word of it, I'm sure.
No,
Yeah.
we just knew when activity was going on, we were really, really busy.
Right.
And when the things were all quiet, well, a break. Because we worked shift work, 24 hours, 24/7.
Did you live on the camp itself?
Yes.
You were in barracks and.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Now your husband also worked in the
Yes, he
in the
did.
same
That's where I
operation.
met him.
Oh, okay.
So, and he lived on the camp after the war because he helped run the communications, and he was there till 50, and I was there till 51 because I couldn't find a place to live in Ottawa where he was transferred.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
It was, as I recall, it was a high secrecy training center, both and communication center, with apparently, as I recall, one of the most powerful radio transmitters in the world,
Yes.
located right there.
The biggest supporter of Camp X were the ham operators they recruited in Canada, and all civilians. They brought them in and helped build the transmitter and everything. And Colonel Bailey was in charge of the communications, and he became one of the first mayors of Ajax.
Which is why they call one of the streets by Camp X Bailey Road.
Bailey Engineering went there.
That's right,
He
yeah.
started his company in Camp X.
Yeah. Now, when you were at Camp X, obviously, as you said, things got really busy when the operational tempo went up and it was very quiet. What happened on VE Day?
We got a 5-minute break. Take it a little bit of time off.
Right, right. Was there any indication that the surrender had been signed?
No.
No, they just
No,
said.
not, we heard what the rest of the world heard. No, they kept, you were very controlled as to what you could say, where you could not tell people where you were. We were, as far as our relatives and everybody else was concerned, we were in Toronto. Our
Yes.
address was Toronto.
Yeah.
They picked the mail up from Toronto every day and brought it.
Yeah.
So as far as everybody was concerned, it was Toronto.
Which was,
And-
that must have been kind of hard sometimes.
And I read my notes from the archives, and there's not a thing in my military records that said I was at Camp X.
Really?
It says I was at Military District Number 2 Research Center.
Interesting.
That's all it said.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had nothing to do with Camp X.
Interesting.
So they had a hard time proving who was stationed there. And they had to go through everybody's background. But I would say 60% were civilians.
Right, yes.
Very few from the forces. But we were never allowed to ask anybody their name or where they came from or anything. You just said, hello, how are you? And if they told you the name, fine.
But you still married your husband.
That's what happens when you don't know people. So we got married on the 1st of September, 45.
Okay.
And the big joke was one war ended the next week. Not true, really.
Of course not. Of course not. But you went on to continue service in the Canadian Forces in the.
No, not really. Well, no, I didn't. He did.
He did. Okay.
He went to National Defense, but he was never in the. He was in the forces during the war, but not after the war. He worked for National Defense. And I was fortunate to get a job working for the government, which had a lot to do with the forces. So I've been connected to the forces all my working life.
Well, Davy, thank you so much for telling us just a little bit of your story that you can now talk about.
Yes, that's why we didn't join the Legion at the beginning, because we couldn't say for 50 years. And this medal is the one that we got from...
Yes, right here on your... Yes,
But it's a civilian medal.
Okay.
It says we also served.
Nice.
Because most of the people were civilians.
Right.
So we were very fortunate. It was well-kept secret, no problems at all, and you worked 24/7.
Well, thank you for your service and for your story.
Yeah, it was a good, what will I say, role to play in the war.
Great.
It was very easy, and you feel a little guilty when you hear of all the stories of the vets from overseas.
Yes.
And you just went working.
I know.
And protected, and so thank you.
Thank you. My next interview is...
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess they can't close the road in the same way this
They're
year
not going
since it's
to.
the main way through town.
Because it's the main way through town, they decided not to close it. So,
They're still going to shoot off the cannon over there? Scare
Yes.
the hell out of people in their cars.
I'm also shooting at guts to keep him warm footballers.
Just got lots of layers on.
My feet get terribly cold.
Yeah, hectic socks, but
Oh yeah.
My next interview is with Barry Jack. Barry was a medic in the Canadian Forces. Barry, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Now, Barry, you started out as a medic in basically the Cold War. That was the period of service.
That's right.
Sometimes called the Quiet War or the Silent War or the Deep War. I've heard it referred to as all of that. What year did you start?
I joined the 10th of August, 1966. Joined in and went to Saint-Jean, Quebec, did our basic, and I went into electronics because I had almost my grade 12 at that time. They thought I would be perfect for electronics, only to find out that I was poor in math. It doesn't work. So I went to Clinton, and then from Clinton, basically I became a medic and went on to do my medical work.
Now, if you started in 66 or entered in 66, you entered post-unification.
Yes, I was RCAF.
Okay.
When I got out, I was still RCAF.
Right.
I never gave my
That's
rights
right,
away.
because there was the switch back and
That's
forth.
right. That's right.
But you would have enlisted with the green uniform.
I enlisted with the blue uniform
Okay.
before the green.
Just before, that's right, because it
Yep.
was a couple of years
About
later they switched to
68 we went
they switched
into.
to the uniforms.
Yep.
So that was probably just as traumatic as anything.
It was. Yes, well, you lost your identity.
Sure, sure.
And if you went to serve with a Air Force unit, everybody else was different at the time, and Navy never did change.
Right.
They kept their own uniforms, as you might well say.
They did. Now I notice you're wearing the peacekeeping medal.
Yes.
Where did you see peacekeeping service?
Yes, I did. I think it was about 1973. I went to Golan Heights, Israel, and spent 6 months there between Syria, just off Damascus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And that was a time when Canada was very, very strong in United Nations peacekeeping, wasn't it?
Yes,
We
yeah.
had quite a number of missions around the world.
Yes. There was a large contingent at Ismailia, Egypt, and then there was 320 of us, I think, in the Golan Heights. And then from there was outposts all around. So again, we're Canadians that were doing observation.
Yeah, yeah. And at that point, too, I think we were still in Cyprus.
Yes.
There was it kind of hopscotched around the
Yes.
globe. The blue
Yeah.
beret
Yes.
hopscotched around the globe.
I still have my blue beret.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's something you have with great pride.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A very unique and, well, still is a very special part of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, as a medic, your job was to go in, basically, I guess, and fix people up.
Yep. Basically, you could work in the hospital, work as a somewhere between an RPN and a nurse, or you could work in a clinic and basically screen patients to see if there was in for a cold or flu or whatever it is, or you could be out with detachment, out with a regiment, on board ship. When I was on board HMCS Yukon, there was me and 240 guys.
And you were the doctor.
I was the doctor at the time. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Did dentists too.
Oh, my goodness.
It's amazing what the sailors would let you do when they didn't want to have it done at shore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And did you have any specialized training as well?
I was a medical vac technician.
First
I
Nations
was
and
pest
Métis
control,
peoples in the
medical
old Southern
administration, nuclear, biological, chemical warfare technician,
Both of them are respected.
and I think that was about it, plus medic.
So basically, you could fly with a patient being evacuated by air.
I did a lot of evacs.
Yeah.
I did everything from a Buffalo, what do you call them?
That's an
Otter.
aircraft. That's an aircraft,
Yeah.
by the way. These are aircraft, not
Otter, 707, Hercules. I did one air evac from Tel Aviv to Montreal on a 747. Basically, you had to look after the casualty, his needs at the time. Plus, you had to inform the crew what altitude that it was safe for them to fly at, so that you didn't interfere with the casualty, especially if he had a head. In my case, it was a head injury. So there was a lot of things you did.
A lot of technical knowledge.
Yeah.
A lot of technical
Enjoyed it.
knowledge. Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that from the way you described your training, it sounds like there was a lot of what-if stuff.
Yes.
Just practical.
of the nuclear, biological, chemical contamination. That's a kind of a what-if scenario.
And it was a big thing during
Yes.
when I was in Germany and other places.
Yes. Yeah, because you were with the Canadian Forces
Yes.
at
CFB Baden-Soligen.
right.
So that was one of the biggest worries we had at the time. It wasn't nuclear, it was biological.
Yeah. And that would have meant, as if I recall my history correctly.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
El Malai Rachamim, God full of compassion, dwelling on high, grant perfect rest under the wings of divine providence among the holy and pure who shine as the light of the firmament, to the souls of our beloved kin whom we recall with blessing on this day. Master of compassion, gather them forever in the shelter of your wings. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life. The eternal is their inheritance. May they rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
In Flanders Fields by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
A reading from Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake with the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of the city. It shall not be moved. God will help it when the morning dawns. The nations are in an uproar. The kingdoms totter. He utters his voice. The earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord. See what desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations. I am exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. What is it that you are remembering today? Every single one of us gathered here is remembering something, sometime, or someone. And in the 2 minutes of silence which we just took, we come close to that memory. It may be of conflicts long ago and far away, which became crystal clear through this day, in this time.
It may be of a time when we were much younger and could move much more quickly and see how we saw things which no one else should ever see. It may be of someone whom we have known and loved dearly, or a family member we know only through those sepia-colored photos and stories passed from generation to generation, lovingly, carefully, tenderly. This is the moment of remembrance. It is our moment. It is a very personal moment in time. And yet, it is a shared moment. We are not alone gathered here. We may not know or even speak to the people who surround us in this crowd, yet what we do together, we do in community. In this time, we are together and we remember. The words we use in the act of remembrance are much part of a much larger work by English poet Lawrence Binyon, For the Fallen. And while the words of remembrance which we repeat by heart are in our hearts today, the last stanza of his poem is worth recalling. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness to the end, they will remain. They shall remain, and we will remember them. Amen.
Okay, yeah. We will remember them. Heavenly Father, gracious God, on this Remembrance Day, we are gathered here to thank, to appreciate, and to honor especially our veterans. We know that despite their own fears in the wars and battles they fought, and the odds against them, they forged ahead in our defense with little or no regard for their own safety. Over and over again at locations such as Vimy, Ypres, Dieppe, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, the Gulf, the men and women of the Royal Canadian Army, the Royal Canadian Navy, and the Royal Canadian Air Force, and the Merchant Navy proved their dedication by giving up their lives. We thank them, and we will remember them. We know in our hearts that the depth of their dedication to us and our protection and safety. We beseech you, dear Lord, to remember as well those members of the Canadian Forces who have participated in peacekeeping operations from Cyprus to Mali. The danger of these operations calls for the same dedication as wartime operations and often comes with unclear rules of engagement. For those veterans to whom you have called and for whom you have prepared a place, kindly welcome them into your heavenly kingdom and allow them to intercede in our behalf. For those who remain, please guard them as the apple of your eye. Keep us ever thankful, dear Lord, for our honored vets. We will remember them.
Memorial Silver Cross placed by Bob Mitchell, assisted by Patty Sergeant Gibson, President Branch 6, on behalf of all Memorial Silver Cross families. Government of Canada, on behalf of MP Alex Ruff, placed by Master Warrant Officer Longfee, assisted by Ann McCallum, First Vice President. Province of Ontario, placed on behalf of MPP Bill Walker by retired MPP Bill Murdoch, assisted by Ed Yates, Second Vice President. City of Owen Sound, placed by Mayor Ian Boddy, assisted by Jeff Lockwood, Brand 6. County of Grey, placed on behalf of Warden Selwyn Hicks by Grey County Councillor Brian O'Leary, assisted by Mark Woods, Branch 6 Executive. Township of Georgian Bluffs, placed by Mayor Dwight Burley, assisted by Les Highfield, past President, Branch 6. Fourth Canadian Division Training Center, placed by Captain Robert Andrusko, assisted by Master Warrant Officer Chessel. Serving members of the Gray and Simcoe Foresters, placed by Captain McLean, assisted by Master Warrant Officer Chessel. Royal Canadian Legion Branch 6 and Ladies Auxiliary, placed by Patty Sergeant Gibson, President Branch 6, and Irene Surridge, Ladies Auxiliary President. Veterans Affairs Canada, placed by Anita Taylor, assisted by Barry Jack, Veteran Service Officer, Branch 6. Operational stress injury social support, placed by Barry Jack, Veteran Service Officer, Branch 6, assisted by Kate Wilson, Branch 6 Executive. They did a change on me. Military Family Resource Center, placed by Loretta Dietz, Secretary of the Board, assisted by Catherine Eastwood, Commander, Zone C4. Canadian veteran Freedom Riders, placed by Nicholas Goody, retired British Army, assisted by Ray Ralston, retired Auxiliary Police. Owen Sound Victoria Cross recipients Billy Bishop, Tommy Holmes, and David Curry, placed by Harry Hutchinson, past President, Branch 6, assisted by Mary Mahar, Branch 6 Ladies Auxiliary. World War I, placed by Milne Baker, Branch 6 Executive, assisted by Kathy Lindsay, Branch 6 Ladies Auxiliary. Get wet. World War II, placed by Don McIsaac, veteran, assisted by Melinda Brown, Branch 6 Ladies Auxiliary. Korea War veterans, placed by Bob Alexandra, veteran, assisted by Barry Jackson, veteran. Merchant Navy veterans, placed by John Garvey, veteran, and Mo Boyer, veteran. Honoring all who served in conflict, in peacekeeping, and in peacetime in Canada and abroad, placed by Brian K. Veteran, assisted by Michelle Tall, Branch 6 Ladies Auxiliary. Prior to the service, the following families had wreaths placed in remembrance. In memory of Tony Penichetti by the Penichetti family. In memory of Sam Smart Sr. by his loving family. In memory of Ab and May Walker by Alf and B. Walker. In memory of Corporal Evan Griffiths and Sergeant Ken Griffith by Bob and Carol Griffiths. In memory of May Elizabeth Noon by her 9 daughters. In memory of R.J. Bob Turner by family and friends. In memory of Sergeant William C. Corbett, World War II 36 Battery RCA by the Corbett family. In memory of Major Frank Barnett Hewitt, veteran of World Wars I and II by Jillian Lesson family. In memory of Grant Proctor and Daniel Proctor by the Proctor family. In memory of Honorary Colonel W.F. Bill Granger, Gray and Simcoe Foresters Regiment by his loving wife Billy and family. In memory of Private Samuel Farrar by his loving family. In memory of Corporal Robert Mitchell by his loving parents Carol and Bob Mitchell and his children Cameron, Ryan, and Jay Lynn. In memory of brothers William Allen Bishop, Howard Francis Bishop, and their cousin, Lieutenant Colonel Reginald Worth Bishop. All War I by Maggie Bishop, Jean Ann Sabiston, and Fred and Judy McKay and family. In memory of Leslie Armstrong, World War I, and his son, Pilot Officer Kerwood Armstrong, World War II, by the Terry Armstrong family, and Marcia and James Thompson and family. In memory of Beverly Armstrong, RCAF, and Jack Armstrong, Special Forces, both World War II, by the Terry Armstrong family, and Marcia and James Thompson and family. In memory of Douglas Daniel Mahar of the Merchant Navy by the Mahar family. In memory of William H. Bill Harrison by the Harrison family. In memory of Bill and Mabel French, World War I, and Bert Carson, World War II, by Margaret Harrison. In memory of Norman James Gibson, Jr., by the Gibson family. In memory of World War II veterans, William, Robert, Albert, and Alfred Walker, by the Walker family. In memory of Jack Sargent, Military Medal, and Sally Sargent, by the Sargent family. In memory of Frederick Heasman, World War I, his and son William Heasman, World War II, by their children and grandchildren. In memory of Private E.J. Billings, RCAMC, by Annette Slade, Ed Yates, and their families. In memory of Lieutenant Colonel James Graham, England, by Cynthia, Jennifer, and Brent England. In memory of Bill McKay, from Gladys Penichetti and family. In memory of Inspector Mickey K. Owen Sound Police Services, by his family. In memory of grandfather Tom Noble and his 4 brothers, by the Manger family. Henry Manger and 2 brothers, by the Manger family. Laid by company of EQR Grey Guards in honor of Sergeant Ernest Roberts. In memory of Flight Officer Clarence Long, by the Barber family. In loving memory of Gunner Edwin Ashley, 17 Fielded Artillery, 5th Division, 1st Canadian Army veteran of World War II in Italy, France, Belgium, and participated in the liberation of Holland. Proudly from your son, Brian, daughter Louise, and their families. Prior to this service, wreaths were laid at Greenwood Cemetery in memory of the men and women who served in World Wars I and II. The following organizations and businesses have had wreaths laid in remembrance. 167th Squadron, Royal Canadian Air Cadets Alumni Association. Bayshore Broadcasting Corporation. Beth Ezekiel Synagogue. Billy Bishop Home and Museum. Brian E. Wood Funeral Home. Brown Family Funeral Homes, Tana Hills and Breckenridge Ave-Cross. Bruce Gray Child and Family Services. Bruce Telecom. Calvary Church, Evangelical Missionary. Central Place Retirement Community. CIBC Owen Sound. Community Living Owen Sound and District. Crescent Athletic Club. QP 118900 and 118901, City of Owen Sound, East Ridge Community School, First Baptist Church of Owen Sound, First Christian Reformed Church of Owen Sound, Great Lakes Métis, Grey Bruce Health Services, Grey Bruce Labor Council, Grey Bruce Paraplegic Association, Grey County Paramedic Services, Grey and Simcoe Foresters Junior Branks Mass, Hillcrest Elementary School, Keppel Sarawak Elementary School, Campbell and District Lions Club, Keystone Child Youth and Family Services, Kiwanis Club of Owen Sound, Lions Club of Owen Sound, North Star Masonic Lodge number 322 AF and AM, Notre Dame Catholic School, Outdoor Adventures Club of Owen Sound, Owen Sound and District Chamber of Commerce, Owen Sound Comrades, Owen Sound District Secondary School, Owen Sound Family Health Team, Owen Sound Police Service, Owen Sound Professional and Firefighters Association Local 531, Quota International of Owen Sound, Quota International Silver Q, Ramoka Shrine Club, Retired Women Teachers of Ontario, Owen Sound and Area Branch, Ride Performance formerly Tenneco, River Forest Montessori School, Rotary Club Owen Sound, Royal Canadian Legion Ladies Auxiliary Brand 6, Sarawak Loyal Orange Lodge 1302, Scenic City Lions Club, Scenic City Order of Good Cheer, Silver Seas of Owen Sound, St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, St. Basil's Catholic School, St. George's Anglican Church, Owen Sound, St. George's Masonic Lodge, number 88, St. John Ambulance, Grey Bruce Huron Branch, Sydenham Sportsmen's Association, the Community Waterfront Heritage Center, the Georgian Yacht Club, the Grey Bruce Pet Hospital, the Salvation Army Community Church, Owen Sound, the United Churches of Owen Sound, Timothy Christian School, Transcontinental RBW Graphics, Victorian Order of Nurses, Grey Bruce, Santa Club of Owen Sound. If there are any other organizations with a wreath to lay, please come forward now.
Go in peace, for that is the work we are called to do. Go in hope, for that is what we are called to have because of those who have gone before and stood for us in times and places we can barely imagine. Go in remembrance, for this day is a solemn day, and the sacrifices we honor require it. Amen. Gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Kirk, as always, thank you so much. I will do my best for my lessons learned aftermath to get a little coordination. I know you have.
Be here
but
early.
I'm also
we're
thinking,
missing out some people.
but
That's
I'm
too
also
bad.
thinking we've missed at least one, so I want to correct that going forward. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And I'll
well,
see you.
I should really go form up again, but well, forget it.
That's up to you.
I see somebody's taking my spot anyway. So.
All right. There you go. That's good. That's good.
You guys always have the best bands.
All righty. Bye. All right. Thanks.
later.
See you. See you again.
Gentlemen?
Amanda, as if I recall my history correctly, you had to do all your duties in a chemical suit.
Yes,
Like you'd
Yes.
have to be
completely covered.
covered, sealed with duct tape,
Yep,
everything.
yep.
Yeah. So
Not too much listening to somebody's heart at that time because you really couldn't hear it.
right. Of course, at that point, I suspect the issues would not necessarily be cardiac. They
No.
would be very different.
That's right.
Very, very different. What changes did you see from the beginning of your career to the end? If you could use it, just to use a few words, what would you describe it as?
I would say we were more a family when we started.
Yes.
When I joined, a sergeant looked after his corporal, corporal looked after the privates, and near the end of the career, it was not quite the same.
Right.
You were more or less on your own in a lot of cases.
When you go to the cenotaph this Remembrance Day, it'll be, I suspect your experience will be slightly different from those who are World War II veterans or Korea veterans.
Yes.
What do you remember when you're at the cenotaph?
I remember the friends I lost. I remember the people I worked with, the patients we lost.
Right.
All those people. And the friendship. Also, it brings back your friends that you knew.
Right. Of course.
And that are still alive and still serve. And with the Legion, that's, as a service officer, I get to see the veterans quite a bit, and that's my job here.
Right. Right. Because whether we like it or not, even peacekeeping was hazardous. I think of the crash of
I believe it was a buffalo in Egypt.
Yes.
Where we lost quite a number of service personnel, and these have happened over the years.
Yes.
So
Yep.
important to remember them, as well as the people who have died in the more well-known conflicts.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Barry, thank you so much for the conversation and for your story, and we look forward to seeing you in the parade.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello. My guest now is John Garvey. John is a veteran of the Merchant Marine, which is a different kind of service, but a service that was tremendously important, especially in the Second World War. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, can you explain what the Merchant Marine was and what it did?
Well, we were delivery boys.
Okay.
We'd load our ship up in Canada with anything from canned peas to cannons, and we'd take it to wherever it was needed, in England, Africa, or wherever it was needed, and unfortunately, we didn't have much protection.
Right, that's very true.
We had twin Oerlikons on each side of the bridge, machine guns, had a 12-pounder on the stern.
And that wasn't much when you were dealing with maybe a big battleship or a submarine.
Submarine, because he had 6-inch guns.
That's right, yeah.
So,
Now, when did you enlist in the Merchant Marine?
1940. I boarded a ship in Halifax, 1940 on the 28th of December. And on the 15th of February, I was in England on my first trip.
And when were you discharged?
Oh, the war was still going on. Let's see, in February. Yeah, in February, my left knee got banged in a storm, and I couldn't stand on it.
Right.
So they sent me home in February. And the end of March, my dad come in and he says, "John, I got some bad news for you." And I said, "Who was it?" Like I had my brother in the Air Force and cousins in the Army and Navy. He says, "No, it's not that." I said, "Then what's the bad news?" He says, "Here's your conscription notice."
Oh, gee. Yeah.
I says, "Dad, I've only been home a month and they sent me here." And I said, "I'm not even going down." He said, "If you do not go, your name will go on the list, and if they run into you sometime in the future, you could go to prison."
That's right, that's right.
So I said, "Okay." So I go down to Wolseley Barracks in London, sign in, and there's a sergeant there. When I went in, I was mad, and I just threw the papers on his desk, and he started giving me the business. And I said, "Sergeant, I'm not in the Army. Don't tell me what to too. So,
What the temerity of an army man telling a sailor what to do, eh?
yeah. Whole life.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, John, what kind of trips did you make? You obviously left from Halifax, but where did you end up?
Well, Liverpool was a really big base because it was at the southern part of England.
Right.
Made it easier and faster to get to. And then from there to Scapa in northern Scotland, we were in different ports.
So kind of like a regular run that you did.
You know, there was no regular run.
Okay.
And when you signed on the ship, you went in, you didn't know where you were going.
Sure, sure.
24 hours after you're at sea, then the captain says, we're going to go to Liverpool, we're going to Gibraltar, we're going to North Africa, or even like in 42, when the Americans made their landing in French Morocco, we were in that convoy.
Right, right.
There were 3,000 ships there, so.
That was a big convoy.
Yeah, well, it didn't go all at once.
No,
It was out there and then it just combined. And we were sitting there and we thought, boy, what a perfect bunch of targets we are for submarines.
Were you in convoys where there were ships lost to submarines?
Yeah. In the first part, just about every convoy, because if you had two escorts, you were an armed raiders.
Right.
And the first ship I went over on, we didn't have any guns. They kept the captain, he had them in his safe. So it wasn't pretty, but we went.
Right, right. As you say, you had a job to do.
Yeah.
And it was delivery.
And I tried to get in the Navy, and they said, no, you're too young.
Okay.
So I shopped around with Canada Steamship Lines at Windsor at the docks, and with them, helped me get on a ship.
Sure.
And then I left Christmas night at 5 o'clock in 40. 28th, I'm aboard a ship on my way to overseas.
Yeah, yeah. They really wanted people for that particular line of work, didn't they?
Oh, and like a lot of people say, you were 16, they wouldn't take you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the first ship I was on, I was 16. There's two other guys were 17, and one was 19.
Yeah.
We're part of the crew.
You're right, right.
And we didn't know the front of the boat from the back.
But you learned pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The merchant marine was also not treated in the same way as the regular service. I mean,
No.
You simply were on the ship. You were a civilian. You didn't get the benefits.
No, nothing.
Until much later.
Well.
So you were in the war, but you didn't get any benefits from that service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the war, but we weren't in the service.
Yeah. 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 And I'm sure you saw many of your friends not make it home.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you are at the cenotaph on Remembrance Day, is that who you'll be remembering? The ones who didn't make it home?
Well, you remember the guys that got killed.
Yeah.
And maybe one, let's see. Bob Campbell is the only guy I can remember that was with us. And he's the only guy that I can remember his name. I remember different events.
Sure.
I've seen everything.
Yeah.
Seen ships go down, aircraft on fire, and all this. We even went to Jamaica, and we had a Jamaican fireman and a Greek fireman, and they had words, and the Greek cut the other guy's throat. And we were loading in Montego Bay, and we left there, coming up, and we find 3 starways
My goodness.
in the hole. And
Yeah.
fortunately enough, we're still in this warm weather, so we went into Cuba at Guantanamo Bay, let them off, then we went out and caught up the convoy and came home. In the storm and everything else, we got in Halifax, 0 temperature, 0 visibility, and you got all these ships going in the same direction. There was a light ship about 18 miles out at the beginning of the channel, and we come so close to running it down, it was pitiful, but we didn't have any radar.
Right, radar didn't exist then.
And
In
so we
civilian applications, at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had
But-
lookouts, but that's all.
Well, John, I want to thank you, first of all, for your service and recognizing that there were many, many who we remember on this Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure coming here, and not, like you say, not many people knew us.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Okay.
but we made it home.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tooth Fairy? No, my dear, I'm the Pill Fairy. There's a Pill Fairy? Well, obviously you need one. What's this? Those are for my back. Well, you seem fine now. Let's just get rid of any dangerous leftovers, huh?